She was the quiet girl everyone ignored, until the day 3 bullies humiliated her in front of 200 students. That slap echoed through the entire gym, but what she did next shook the whole school, exposed a decade of lies, and turned her pain into power. Stay until the end, because her response didn't just change her life, it changed everyone's. Collision. Subscribe now for more stories that will leave your heart racing and your soul inspired. Maya Thompson had always been the quiet one, the type of girl who preferred sketching beneath the old oak tree instead of sitting with the crowd. Her silence made her invisible to most, but not to the bullies who prowled the halls of Ridgeway High. It began with whispers, then mocking laughter, then cruel pranks, until one Friday morning, the line between cruelty and crime was crossed forever. During a school assembly packed with over 200 students, as the principal finished his speech on unity, one of the bullies, Rachel Dean, stood up, smirking, and accused Maya of stealing her necklace. The crowd turned. Cameras came out. Before Maya could even defend herself, Rachel's hand cracked across her face. The sound echoed, followed by stunned gasps. For a split second, Maya froze, her cheek stinging, her eyes watering, but instead of crying, she did something no one expected. She looked straight at Rachel and whispered, "Thank you." Everyone laughed, thinking she'd lost her mind. But what no one knew was that Maya had been recording everything. That morning, she had finally decided to stop being a victim. She had footage of months of bullying, every cruel word, every humiliation, every time a teacher turned away. The slap was the final piece. That same night, Maya uploaded a video titled, "What They Did to Me." Within hours, it exploded across social media. Parents, teachers, and students watched in horror as the truth unfolded. 3 popular girls tormenting a quiet classmate while the school looked the other way. By sunrise, the video had over 1 million views, and Ridgeway High was trending for all the wrong reasons. The school board launched an investigation, Rachel's family hired lawyers, and suddenly, the bullies who once ruled the halls were hiding behind tinted car windows. But that wasn't enough for Maya. She wasn't after revenge, she was after change. So she stood in front of the school a week later, trembling but unbroken, and gave a speech that silenced the crowd. You can't silence someone who finally learned their worth. Her voice cracked, but her message didn't. Reporters called her the girl who turned pain into purpose. Colleges reached out. Victims from across the world sent her messages saying she gave them courage. But what people didn't see behind the viral fame was the storm brewing beneath. The bullies' parents tried to sue her for defamation, claiming she edited the clips to ruin their daughters' reputations. The legal battle dragged on for months, and Maya's family nearly lost their home paying for defense costs. Her father's small repair shop was vandalized, her younger brother was mocked in the cafeteria, and for a while, Maya wondered if telling the truth had been a mistake. But fate wasn't done twisting the knife, or handing her the sword. A local journalist uncovered emails between the principal and Rachel's mother, proof that the school had ignored multiple complaints about bullying to protect the image of its top students. The case flipped overnight. Maya became the face of a national anti-bullying movement. The principal was fired, Rachel's parents withdrew her from school, and the district quietly settled with Maya's family for a 6-figure amount that covered their debts and funded a nonprofit Maya started called Rise Above. Still, Maya didn't stop there. 2 years later, she stood on the same stage where she'd been slapped and delivered the valedictorian speech for her graduating class. This time, 2,000 people were watching, not 200, and they stood to applaud her. But as life moved forward, the story didn't fade, it evolved. Rachel, once the queen of popularity, spiraled after the scandal. Rumor had it she left town, got involved with the wrong crowd, and reached out to Maya years later, begging for forgiveness. And Maya, now studying psychology, did something most wouldn't. She forgave her. She wrote back, "What you did broke me, but it also built me. I hope you find peace." That message went viral again, not because it was dramatic, but because it was powerful in its grace. But there was one final twist, the kind that no one saw coming. A few years later, Maya was invited to speak at a major conference on mental health. As she stepped onto the stage, she spotted someone sitting in the front row, Rachel, dressed modestly, eyes glistening with tears. After Maya's talk, Rachel approached her, voice shaking. "You saved me," she said. "That slap ruined my life, but your forgiveness gave me a second chance." The two hugged, and the audience stood in stunned silence, realizing they were witnessing redemption in real time. That moment became one of the most shared videos of the year, not because it was about revenge, but because it was about transformation. Maya later revealed that she had almost taken her life the night before posting the first video. "If I had," she said in an interview, "the truth would have died with me." Sometimes your breaking point is really your beginning. Years later, she turned her story into a best-selling book titled Unbroken, The Girl Who Thanked Her Bullies. It became required reading in schools across the country. She used the proceeds to build scholarships for students who stood up against bullying in silence. And when a reporter asked if she'd ever forget that slap, Maya smiled softly and said, "No. But I've rewritten its meaning. It wasn't a sign of my weakness, it was the sound of my awakening." The crowd went silent, because everyone realized that the girl once humiliated in front of hundreds had become the voice for millions. That single act of cruelty sparked a global conversation on empathy, mental health, and courage. And though she never sought fame, her story lived on, not as a viral moment, but as a movement that changed how schools, parents, and students saw one another. In the end, Maya's greatest revenge wasn't destroying her bullies, it was outgrowing them. Years had passed since Maya Thompson turned her humiliation into hope. Her name had become synonymous with resilience, and her nonprofit Rise Above had expanded across states, hosting seminars, school programs, and even global conferences that empowered young people to stand against bullying, mental health stigma, and silence. From that one moment of pain, one slap in front of 200 students, she had built an empire of empathy. But behind her radiant smile and speeches that inspired millions, Maya was still haunted by one question: can pain truly be left behind, or does it simply change its face? That question began to find its answer when she hired a new executive director for her foundation, a charming, brilliant young man named Ethan Brooks, a former motivational speaker who had publicly praised her story for years. At first, he seemed perfect, confident, articulate, and passionate about her mission. He helped double their donations, attract celebrity endorsements, and secure partnerships with international schools. Maya trusted him fully, maybe too fully. Slowly, strange things began happening. Reports went missing. Budgets didn't add up. Whispers circulated that Maya was using donations for personal gain. At first, she dismissed them as online trolls. But then an anonymous email arrived one morning titled, "You're being set up." Attached were screenshots, altered documents showing fake transactions under Maya's name, signed with her digital signature. Her heart raced. Only one person had access to those files, Ethan. She confronted him that night in the office, rain pounding the windows as lightning illuminated the tension between them. "Why?" she whispered, voice trembling. He smiled, a cold, familiar smile. "Because people love a fall more than a rise, Maya. You've been the saint for too long. Let's see how they react when they think you're just another fraud." Her breath caught. "I trusted you," he shrugged. Exactly why it worked. Before she could respond, he walked out, leaving her staring at the flickering office lights, her world collapsing again, just like the day she was slapped, except this time, the humiliation would be global. Within days, headlines exploded: anti-bullying hero under investigation for fraud. Sponsors pulled out, donors vanished, her staff abandoned her. The same media that once celebrated her now devoured her reputation. She received hate mail, death threats, and mocking comments. Guess the bully became the hypocrite. The déjà vu was suffocating. But just when darkness seemed final, Rachel Dean, the very girl who once slapped her, appeared at her doorstep. She'd become a social worker, helping abuse victims. "I believe you," Rachel said simply. Maya broke down for the first time in years. Together, they decided to fight back, not with anger, but with truth. Rachel introduced Maya to a tech specialist who traced the digital forgeries. The results were damning. Ethan had funneled over $300,000 into offshore accounts using Maya's credentials. But when they brought the evidence to the authorities, Ethan had already vanished. The FBI got involved, and for months, Maya's foundation remained frozen, her reputation in tatters. Yet, through that silence, Maya rediscovered her old strength, the same strength that had made her rise before. Instead of hiding, she went live on her social platforms. No script, no lawyer-approved statement, just her and the camera. "They said I was a liar before," she began, voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Back then, it was a slap. Now, it's fraud. But I learned something from that day years ago: truth may stumble, but it never stays down." The video went viral again, not for shock value, but because of her raw honesty. Thousands flooded her comments with support. Other victims of online defamation came forward, inspired by her courage to stand tall once more. 3 months later, Ethan was caught trying to flee the country. When the truth was revealed in court, Maya's name was cleared completely. The courtroom erupted in tears and applause as the judge read the verdict, not guilty. Ethan received 5 years in federal prison, and as he was led away, he turned to her and said, "You'll never stop fighting, will you?" Maya replied softly, "Not until no one else has to." The next day, every major news outlet ran the headline, "She rose again." But Maya didn't celebrate with fireworks or cameras. She visited the very gym where everything began. It had been renovated into a community center, funded by her foundation's grants. She stood there alone, running her fingers across the floor where she once stood humiliated, and whispered, "Full circle." That moment wasn't revenge, it was peace. However, destiny wasn't done testing her yet. Months later, she received a letter from Ethan's mother, a tear-stained envelope containing a note that said, "He watched your videos in prison. He said he finally understood what he destroyed." Enclosed was a drawing Ethan had made behind bars, a sketch of a girl standing tall after being slapped, her shadow forming angel wings. Maya stared at it for hours before framing it in her office. "Even the broken can create something beautiful," she told a journalist later. Her words resonated across millions once again. Years rolled forward, and Maya turned 30. Rise Above became a global foundation with chapters in 30 countries. She launched a scholarship program for victims of injustice and opened mental health centers in schools named the Hope Rooms. But even with all her success, she kept one promise: to return to Ridgeway High every year and tell her story, not as a warning, but as a reminder that pain can be power when transformed by purpose. One year, she invited Rachel to co-speak with her. The audience gasped when Rachel admitted publicly, "I was the one who slapped her. But she's the one who woke me up." The two embraced as the hall erupted in standing applause, and students cried openly. That video became one of the most viewed clips in educational history, inspiring curriculums about empathy, accountability, and growth. Maya's life continued with its highs and lows. Fame brought scrutiny, and compassion brought exhaustion. But one day, while visiting a university where her foundation sponsored therapy programs, she met a young girl named Ava who reminded her of herself, quiet, artistic, and bullied. Ava handed Maya a crumpled sketchbook full of drawings of heroes rising from darkness. "Your story saved me," Ava whispered. "When they hit me, I remembered what you said: you can't silence someone who knows their worth." Maya smiled, tears brimming. In that instant, she realized something profound. Her legacy wasn't in speeches, awards, or viral videos, it was in hearts that refused to break. A decade later, Maya stood on a TED Talk stage, older, wiser, her once fiery energy now replaced with calm strength. "People think healing means forgetting," she said, her voice echoing through the packed auditorium. "But healing means remembering differently. The slap that broke me became the sound of my rebirth. And every betrayal since has only reminded me of one truth: resilience isn't built in comfort, but in chaos." The crowd erupted in applause. That talk became one of the most watched videos of all time, reaching every corner of the globe. Maya's message transcended bullying. It became a philosophy of survival, forgiveness, and empowerment. At 40, she published her second book, Still Rising, which chronicled her battles with trust, forgiveness, and fame. In one chapter, she wrote, "The same hands that hurt you once might never apologize, but that's okay. You don't need their sorry to write your story." The book shattered sales records, but more importantly, it became a lifeline for millions silently fighting their own pain. On the 10th anniversary of Rise Above, she organized a reunion gala. Rachel attended as co-founder, now happily married with a daughter named Hope. When they took the stage together, Maya looked at the crowd and said, 10 years ago, a slap echoed across a gym. Tonight, that echo has become a roar of courage." The audience rose, cheering through tears. But in the quiet after the applause, Maya sat backstage, reflecting. Every victory had come through scars, every triumph through tears. And as she glanced at the framed sketch Ethan drew, the one of the girl with angel wings, she whispered, "Even darkness served its purpose." That was her final twist, the revelation that the same pain she once cursed had shaped her destiny. It didn't destroy her, it defined her. In the end, Maya's journey proved that life isn't about avoiding pain but transforming it. From the slap heard by 200 students to the story that inspired millions, she had become living proof that the human spirit, once awakened, cannot be silenced again. And as her foundation slogan declared across every poster, school, and stage, they tried to break her. Instead, she built a world where no one has to feel broken again.